The Bub Report was first streamed in May of 2020. It was born out of a need to enhance the quality of public discourse on issues affecting Grenada and the rest of the English-speaking Caribbean, as well as connecting Grenadians at home with Grenadians in the diaspora, or as the Honorable Peter David calls us, the 16th constituency. What we do here is independent, non-partisan, and fearless, and it is meant to assist in curating well-researched and professionally produced media content, something that we believe at the Bub Report is sadly lacking in some segments of Grenadian media. We also believe in maintaining the highest ideals of journalistic integrity. As a journalism and communications scholar of record in higher education, I am very mindful of the need to maintain integrity and credibility at all times. Part of our mantra here at the report is also to ensure that all sides are represented in any public discourse on matters of national importance and national significance. This means that fact-checking, debunking, challenging, and thoroughly investigating any claims made by anyone who appears on this platform, as well as ensuring that all angles are appropriately covered with a critical and dispassionate eye on any matter of national importance. What this show is not, however, is a platform that fosters bacchanalian discourse, or a platform that fosters a rating game, or engaging in the business of tabloid deception. This is not what we do here at the report, contrary to a prevailing narrative that has been emerging in some quarters since the airing of last week's show. The Bub Report will continue to do its part in raising the bar of independent and investigative journalism for Grenada's sake. It is a commitment that I take with extreme seriousness and reverence for the exemplary ideals of the profession that I love so much. We therefore will remain an open and inclusive platform for all sides to dispassionately present their positions, with the understanding that in the process of presenting their positions, it is my job to fact-check them, to pursue the facts, while also satisfying the public's need to know. Thanks for listening, and on last Sunday's show, we shall move on. Census data from the 2019 United Nations Population Prospectus suggests that Grenada's largest demographic group is persons in the age range of 25 to 54 years, which makes the island's population a very youthful one. If current trends continue to hold, Grenada's young population will continue to grow exponentially until 2050, when the country is expected to experience a precipitous drop in its birth rate. The demographic explosion among youth, perhaps the most productive population segment on the island, has to contend with an unemployment rate of 15.2% as of April 2020. The onset of COVID-19 has, however, pushed that number up quite significantly, And the International Monetary Fund, in its May 2020 IMF report, already made the point that the unemployment rate was, quote, unacceptably high, unquote, despite the country's growth rate of 5% between 2014 and 2019. This week on the Bub Report, we invited two administration members to discuss issues affecting Grenada's youth and its youth programs to address these issues. We also have an independent entrepreneur on our show to unpack several burning issues raised in recent times, which is happening against the backdrop of increasing youth activism and resistance in some quarters.
There's a lot going on, you know? There's a lot going on right about now. Grenada don't sell out already. The only set of resources left to sell is we, the people. And where you think we go in?
Our leaders are not even taking our young people seriously. Because why? They want to continue to hold on position of power until they die.
Very grateful that we have a government that continue to invest heavily in the young people of this country.
We also continue the conversation on China's increasing hegemonic influence in the Caribbean, which rivals that of the region's traditional geopolitical partners, such as the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. It's Sunday, September 13th, 2020. We welcome our guests, Jevon Minto of the Inter-Caribbean Dialogue, entrepreneur Moses Jab King Marast, the Honorable Kate Lewis, Grenada's Minister with responsibility for youth development in the Ministry of Youth Development, and Royden Bihari, Youth Coordinator in the Ministry of Youth Development. The Bub Report also wishes to congratulate the Anglican High School Grenada on its celebration of 104 years as a learning institution, while also extending sympathies to the AHS family on the passing of past student Irva Batiste Blackett, the composer of Grenada's national anthem. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of the Bub Report. Good morning, folks, and welcome to the Bub Report. Let me apologize for our delayed start this morning. Sometimes technology can fail us, and this morning was just one of those mornings when some of our guests had issues with logging in, but that has since been resolved. And I will get straight to my first guest out there in Jamaica. Jevon, thank you so much for appearing on the Bub Report. How are you, my friend?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well. Hope the same for you and the viewers.
Absolutely. Now, Jamaica recently had an election. Obviously, I didn't bring you on here to talk about the election, but what has been happening since the re-election of Mr. Holness down there in terms of the government's policy?
Basically, it's a lot of formalities happening right now. The government is expected to swear in some of the cabinet ministers, I think today. And so a lot of what's happening is basically administrative, governance issues that you have to ensure smooth transition, give the prime minister a hand to sort of reshape his cabinet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. With respect to China, we will move straight ahead with what's happening with China in the Caribbean. Many persons, including folks in Jamaica, have actually expressed concern with respect to China's outsized influence. Now, I'm going to play a clip by one Umar Johnson, and I would want you to respond to what he said about China's influence over there in Jamaica.
The black bourgeoisie leadership in both Africa and the Caribbean, they don't have to live with the consequences of the economic decisions they make. So if I'm the president of Jamaica, okay, and China says, listen, we're going to give you $1 million in retirement. We're going to build you a retirement home, but we want this, this, and this. And you can loan as much money as you want. You can borrow as much money from the Bank of China as you want. I'm going to be set by the time I leave office. But what about my nation?
Jevon, your thoughts?
I don't know how to respond to that because it lacked a lot of specificities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know exactly what the concerns he was expressing. Mm-hmm. I mean, from the evidence and from all the data that we see, China only has around 3 to 4% controls. Well, Jamaica only owes around 3 to 4% of the total debt stock to Chinese policy banks, and that's pretty low. And if you look at the terms and the rates at which they give Jamaica and other Caribbean countries financing, it's pretty low. And so if you think about it, why is it that so many people expressing so much concerns about a possible debt trap between China's financing throughout the region and the developing world, but governments are not paying attention? It's because people who are technocrats who sit down and look at data, they see that these concerns are unfounded, and that if you can get 340 million US dollars at 3 to 4% loan rate, right, for a period of 25 years, it frees up the government's coffers to be able to spend more on other social issues, put more into education, into healthcare. It's those concerns very general. Notice he didn't mention anything specific. It was just painting a very general image. But as always, the case studies are important. When you get on the ground, the realities are way more different than people sometimes suggest.
Well, let us unpack that, because the concern, and this is not anecdotal evidence. This is evidence that we are witnessing in parts of Africa and in South Asia. The perception, of course, you mentioned financing. Of course, the terms are generous. But what happens when, say, Jamaica or Grenada or any other Caribbean island that has diplomatic relations with China are unable to repay debts that are owed to the People's Republic of China? As we've witnessed in Djibouti, for example, they have overtaken their port. As we've witnessed in Sri Lanka, they've also overtaken their port. So I think the discussion and the narrative has to do with the context in which these financing arrangements occur. The IMF will not come and take a portion of your national asset. How do you respond to that argument?
Well, it's interesting because I'm not sure about the specifics of those two issues, those two countries that you mentioned. I think Chinese officials have countered that narrative to say that it's not a situation where they have literally seized the assets that they financed initially. And that's just the general understanding I got from it. But in the case of Jamaica, we don't see anything like that, right? We don't see. I mean, it would be very.
What about the highway that they constructed? Is the Jamaican government in control of that particular highway?
The highway is a very interesting case studies, and if you talk to anybody working in infrastructure development, they'll tell you that they're fascinated by the fact that the Chinese came in to finance the highway after the French said that they could no longer finance it because it was just not commercially viable. I mean, there are some questions around it in terms of the procurement method. I think it was a sole sourcing, and the World Bank was warning that it could be a corruption enabling device for the Chinese to just submit a proposal to the governments and they just accept that they're going to finance a project. In terms of what it does for national development, government officials will tell you that it's one of the most significant infrastructure projects in a couple of years. And it's reaching in terms of what it does for tourism throughout the country. I mean, you can reach Kingston to the North Coast in less than 5 hours. Before that, you were looking at over 5, 6, 7 hours before you could get to places like Montego Bay and Negril, which was basically tourism hotspots for the country. And so when you look at what are the benefits of the highway that we can get from a highway, who is going to fund it? The Chinese step in, the French say, sorry, we cannot fund it anymore because commercially it's just not viable. I mean, it's a big deal for the country. You can argue about issues relating to the nature of the contract, but outside of that, the big picture is that it was a win-win project.
A win-win project, you say that, but what is the trade-off? Is China giving free lunches in the Caribbean?
Nobody wants free lunches, and
so I think that is the narrative, right?
Nobody wants free lunches, and I mean, if you tell any government officials that we're giving you free lunch, they should be offended by it, right? Because this is our development. We have control of that. So we free lunch, but we want you to negotiate with us, help us as small, vulnerable, climate sensitive states. We put more infrastructure development on the front burner without it burdening our public coffers and limiting extent to which we can finance social initiatives. And I think when you talk about China and the Caribbean, it has provided a lifeline to a lot of Caribbean governments. You're in Grenada, I'm assuming. In Grenada,
I am in Washington, D.C., but of
sorry about
Grenadian
that.
descent. I'm a proud
Grenadian.
Grenadian.
Right. So, for example, the Maurice Bishop International Airport, right? That's something that the Chinese finance. I mean, my only concern with China and Grenada is that I see where the Chinese are helping Grenada to develop a national development plan, which I was quite cautious about it because, as far as I'm concerned, the Chinese don't have enough experience in the Caribbean to be able to, identify the hot issues and where basically they should be targeting for long-term development. So that was something that caught my attention. But if you ask me, to be honest, and based on everything that I've read, studied, and written over the years, I don't see Chinese financing as being, a inherent hegemonic threat to Caribbean own sovereignty that way.
Okay. I have a question, and we would wrap up because I have to get to my three other guests. Someone is saying on the comment here, didn't they have video of Chinese developers treating local Jamaican workers terribly?
But what does that suggest? And what exactly should be the response to that? Is it a one-on-one issue or is it a people issue? If you get what I'm trying to say. So I'd be very careful before I comment on that because I've never seen the video. I don't know what led to those tensions or issues, but essentially every relationship will have flare-ups and issues. And I guess those are things that could be ironed out on a one-on-one level.
Okay, Mr. Minto, thank you so much. I know that you have to run. I apologize for taking up your Sunday, but thank you, and you have a wonderful day, sir.
Same to you, all the best.
All right, folks, we will be right back. It's time.
We live in a different era. Some of us want to own our own homes, want to turn our own keys. We are no longer satisfied with the extended family living arrangements. While these are very good programs in concept because training is always needed, the succession process of these programs is not properly thought out as it relates to transitioning from training to permanent employment, self-employment, or sustainable employment. I am personally grateful for the Imani program because this is a stepping stone to self-improvement. However, there are some fundamental problems with the program. There are youths who are well qualified, performing in some cases better than permanent employees. Some graduates of SGU with degrees and stuck in the Imani program with no hope of improvement. And yes, I know there are some slackers, but I'm speaking of the genuine cases. I know of one person who started the Imani at age 33. She now has a degree from SGU. 20 years shy of retirement and is still under the Imani program working for $1,000 a month. No hope, can't get a loan because her 2-year contract term has ended, can't buy a house, can't even go to courts. The only loaning institution she has access to give them loans with ridiculously high interest rates.
And welcome back, folks. I have the pleasure of being joined this morning by the Honorable Skeeter Kate Lewis, I believe. Thank you, Minister Lewis, and you're also the Member of Parliament for St. Andrew Northeast. Thank you and welcome to the report, as well as Mr. Royden Behari, Youth Coordinator in the Ministry of Youth. I believe you are out there in St. Patrick. Mr. Behari, is that where you are?
Thank you. Yeah, you're so correct, sir.
Absolutely. And Mr. Moses Marast, Jab King.
Yes, sir.
One of my producer gave me a dress down for addressing you correctly, so I'll make sure I get your name right this morning. All right, folks. Thank you. Now I want to begin the conversation by speaking to Minister Lewis. Minister Lewis, the Prime Minister is about to announce a cabinet reshuffle in a couple hours. How are you feeling? If you were to if you were to give your performance a grade, and your work that you were doing at the ministry, how do you feel going into that reshuffle this evening?
Thank you very much, and good morning to you, Kellan, and all of your viewers and listeners to the Bob Report. As the Prime Minister prepares to announce a cabinet reshuffle later, I am quite open-minded and prepared for what is to come, because I believe the Prime Minister, in his wisdom, in his experience, will ultimately make the right decisions. And what is important to note here, that those decisions are made in consultation with us ministers. As it relates to the rating of my performance, I believe that it is important to recognize that what I have been able to achieve for the past 2.5 years was as a result of the teamwork we have exhibited at the ministry. I speak of my colleague, Minister Cox, who was there before me and had more experience, giving me that opportunity to prove myself, guiding me along the way. Then we have our permanent secretary, P.S. Gilbert, the acting coordinator, the assistant coordinator, our project officers, monitoring officers. What we have been able to achieve as a ministry was as a result of the teamwork exhibited by the members of the Ministry of Youth Development.
Okay, Minister, we will get right into it. So we want to first and foremost address the status of the Imani program. Now, in recent time, and I suppose with everything that's happening with COVID, that has given people an opportunity to have a second look at the Imani program. And I'm going to bring in Mr. Behari as well. As we heard in the video that was just played, some young people have issues with the way that the program is set up. And so are there any intentions or are there any ideas to repurpose the program and to make it amenable with current realities?
Yes. Let me begin first of all to speak about the inception of the Imani program and its objectives. The Imani program is a training program and not an employment program. And I think that is where many people are getting it wrong. The objectives of the program is to give the participants or the trainees exposure to work, self-training, self-development, career orientation, and they benefit in several ways with employment opportunities as part of it. But the sole purpose of the program is for the holistic development of the young people engaged in the program. It is not an employment program. Yes, it comes with a stipend, but the aim is to basically train our young people and get them equipped and ready for the job market. And we have been doing just that with a series of training that we have been doing in terms of the CVQ certified areas, occupational areas, in collaboration with other stakeholders. We have been able to get our young people to be self-developed, to improve on their attitude and their work ethics so that they can go into the world of work and perform to the best of their ability. So to say the program is not transitioning our young people into employment, it is because there is a misconception on the objectives of the program.
Now, the other concern that has been raised, and you just referenced the skills-based approach, right? It's a skills-based approach program, as the government is suggesting. Are these skills relevant? Are these? I don't think relevant would be the proper word, but are these skills meeting the demands of the current economic environment in the country. And Mr. Bihari, you can jump in there. Because some concerns that have been raised by some young people like Joel Greenwich, for example, he said that there ought to be more investment in things like science and technology, artificial intelligence, things like that. How would the program be reconstituted to address those concerns?
Okay, thank you.
Harry, I will get you to
Okay, good morning to you, Mr. Bob, and to all the listeners of the Bob Report. As customary, the management and staff at the newly managed secretariat, as well as the management and staff of the Ministry of Youth Development, Sports, Culture, and the Arts, we continue to look at innovative and creative ways of ensuring that the program moves from strength to strength. As you're aware, it's a program in motion with all of the dynamics of the program and all of the challenges that confront our young people on a daily basis. There will be need for continuous assessment, verification, and the improvement in the program structure and also the delivery processes. And that, I can tell you, is one of the priority of the Ministry of Youth Development, Sports, Culture, and the Arts. Over the past years, a number of traditional areas were looked into for the engagement of a number of our trainees. And as a result, as a dynamic team that we have at the Ministry of Youth Development, Sports, Culture, and the Arts, one of the things that we have aggressively and entered into was a partnership with the Central Statistics Office, where we are currently facilitating a survey on the demand side. So that is meaning that a number of the areas that we're going to be getting into for new intakes of the program will not just be the traditional area, but it will be incorporated with some of the new and emerging areas. For example, the area of the marine industry. There are lucrative opportunities there. We are looking at marine electrical and marine welding. Are some of the areas in the areas of ICT, as you would have actually experienced during the COVID period. A significant amount of resources was spent on the area of ICT, not just by the public sector, but also by the private sector to ensure that the businesses continue as usual. And this is definitely an area that we are looking into, the area of digital animation, the web development, mobile apps, robotics, multimedia production, graphics and printing, just to name a few. And we are not just stopping there, Kellen. We are actually looking at the whole area of health and how can we prepare our young people to make good use of opportunities within the health sector. So some of the areas that we are currently in discussion on are the areas of patient care, nursing assistance. How can we get our young people involved in these areas? And we would have also extended even further, Kellen, in the area of construction and building, furniture making, carpentry, wall and floor tiling, electrical maintenance, as well as one of the key areas that we are now looking at is quality interior designs. And for example, we had many hotels that have been built here, and many persons have to live outside of Grenada for quality interior designing. And these are some of the areas we are looking into. But we are not forgetting, Kellen, the creative arts, the performing arts,
correct. Yes, very good, Mr. Beard. But I will get back to Minister Lewis. Minister Lewis, as I indicated, comments are coming in on the pike, so I would want you to address some of the comments that are being raised. So again, that might be a perception. Again, I'm not on the ground in Grenada. I don't know how true it is. Is it a fact that you have persons in the Mani program for over 15 years? How do you respond to that claim? And if it's an apprenticeship program, how long does that apprenticeship is meant to last? Right now, yes. Minister.
We do not have anyone in the program for over 15 years, but we do have people in the program from 2013 to present, because what the apprenticeship program is basically for 2 years. But we always look at what happens to our trainees after that, and looking at the level at which our trainees entered the program. So we have people who come into the program, maybe a TAMCC graduate with an associate degree, and they only required 1 year of training. So from that, after that 1 year, they have moved on to the world of work because of the employment opportunity created for them by the program. But here you may have someone who was a primary school dropout. So they had no formal education or academic qualification or any form of skills to go along with it. It means that person require a longer period of time in the program. So once we finish the official 2-year aspect of the program, we continue to train and retrain these individuals who need more time. And that is what happens as a caring government. What do we say to you? We train you for 2 years, go out there and make it on your own. We cannot do that to our young people because they are our responsibility. And as a result of that, we continue to engage them into the program until we can help them find that employment or create self-employment through our youth-based program at the Ministry of Youth Development. So that is what happens, and that is the reason why you see people moving at different pace than others.
Now, Minister, and again, and this would be my last question on Imani, because we need to move on with other topical areas. Are the data in the Imani program, meaning the amount of persons who are onboarded, are that data used as part of the employment numbers for Grenada?
Well, what I would say to that is, these young people are engaged right in a training aspect of the program. And the fact that they are engaged, it means that they make a part of the employment consideration or employment statistics of our country. Because if they were not engaged, they would not have been part of the statistics.
But it's an apprenticeship program, right? So I think folks are just trying to square that,
it is a question that has been raised and asked, why are they involved? But imagine if they were not part of the program, they would not have been considered, they would not have been making contributions to the economic growth and development of our country. And they are doing that because of the stipend they receive from the program. So they're making contributions to the development of our country as well.
Okay, I'm going to bring in brother Moses.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Thank
morning.
you for waiting in the wind with us and being so patient.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Moses, there seemed to be, at least on the surface, again, I preface what I'm saying by making the point that I am not on the ground in Grenada. I know when folks say, well, he's not on the ground in Grenada, what's he playing, who we think he is? I know how it is, right? But there seems to be a prevailing narrative in some circles that there is angst among the youthful population, which is not congruent with the government's position. You are a man on the ground. What are some of the concerns that young people have?
Well, first and foremost, I would like to say a lot of young people are concerned that when they are incarcerated in the system, that they are not properly rehabilitated into society. A lot of young people, when they have a criminal record, they can no longer apply to certain institutions for work. Secondly, a lot of people, even in the Imani program and in other employment opportunities, are saying that being on contract is not really helping them. They cannot own certain things. You cannot get a loan in the bank. A lot of people are working, but the rate in terms of how much they're paying us is not really helping. People are just living hand to mouth and going day by day, just struggling. A lot of the youths, they are basically have given up. They have given up in terms of looking for opportunities or even for work. It's just really bad on the ground right now, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but on a daily basis, I meet people who are unemployed, who've had a job in the tourism sector and their back is against the wall at the moment, because they're thinking that tourism is going to open up and they're going to get a job soon. But we are not really sure of what's going to happen. And thousands of jobs have been lost from the tourism sector, and a lot of people have mortgages to pay, they have kids to send to school, they have bills to pay, and it's becoming, a nuisance in the sense that, they can't even operate, they can't function, based on the whole COVID situation. So I really think it's something that we need to address. It's something that we need to have an ongoing conversation about in terms of understanding the plight of the youths in Grenada, understanding how we can help them, because the only way we could start is by having a discussion and bringing the right set of people together to help them out. But
Are you suggesting that that is not happening now, that folks are not being brought together?
to a certain extent, I am seeing conversations being started. I am seeing people being helped, but majority, like right now, majority of the youths who are unemployed are just frustrated and they don't know who to go to or where to go. So it might be on one end, but when you're talking about the general sense of the youthful population, which is majority in Grenada right now, they are just frustrated right now.
Now, with respect to incarceration and recidivism, I'm going to bring in Mr. Bihari here, because Mr. Bihari, I believe you said that, so two things. Mr. Maras also referenced issues of loan financing, that when folks, young people go to the bank, and I've heard this as well, and I've actually personally experienced this as well. When I go to the bank for a loan, right, I may not get that loan because I have to provide all of my grandmothers and my great grandmothers and all of my ancestors' land papers, right, before I'm able to get that loan. Now, Mr. Bihari, in reading the budget, the last budget, the 2020 budget, I believe that there is a program with respect to financing of loans for young people, which again, Mr. Maras, I don't know if you know of that loan, but Mr. Bihari, can you expand on that?
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Mr. Maras, for raising your point. In 2003, the government of Grenada been very concerned about the challenges that our young people faces on a daily basis as it relates to getting into their own businesses. After much consideration and after many opportunities and we actually created what we then called the Grenada Youth Enterprise Initiative, which was the GYEI program. In 2018, government will have seen the need to rebrand the entire the former program, which was the GYI program, into the Youth Biz program, which stands for Youth Business. And this platform provides an opportunity for young people, regardless of your political affiliation. That has never been one of our criteria across the board. Young people who have brilliant ideas.
That claim might be challenged.
Young people who have brilliant ideas are given an opportunity to get into small business developmental activities, so they can get up to $25,000. Added to that, we have even gone one step further by creating and launching the Youth Business Support Hub that is based in St. Mark, and it's based in one of the rural parishes. And already for the last 1 year and about 5 to 6 months, we would have financed over 22 small businesses from throughout Grenada, and they actually was financed to a tune of over $500,000 to actually start their own businesses. And that is all because of the interest and the level of attention that government is actually placing on young people with small business mindset. A matter of fact, they are not just brought into the training, they are also provided with a hand-holding services where we assist them with marketing, we assist them with the printing of the business cards and so forth. We assist them in ensuring that the businesses are sustainable so that it moves from strength to strength. So we are not a facility that provides funding and we drop you by the wayside, but we hold your hand until we can see that actual sustainability of each and every small business that actually is engaged with us at the Ministry of Youth Development, Sports, Culture and the Arts.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Minister, and I'm going to give you a chance to respond to some of the. Now, first of all, Mr. McVeigh, I do not have a phone line as yet, so we're not taking calls yet. So to your point, to your question with respect to opening the phone lines, we do not have that. But let's get to some of the comments, Minister, and I will give you a chance to respond. Tim Tam Ortega is saying that there is no upward mobility for young people in Grenada, especially those in the Imani program and those on contract for service. Can't access loans to buy land, buy house, study, or purchase a car. Minister, how do you respond to that comment?
Yes. First of all, let me just bring some clarification to persons, young people who are incarcerated at Her Majesty's prison, and what government has done to ensure that they can have a smooth transition or reintegration into society. In 2017, we saw the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act. And that what that act does, it removes the record, the criminal record, up to a certain level for our young inmates. So those who have been incarcerated, there is a committee set up where they can make an application to clear their records that the police records that they had, and that would give them the opportunity to apply for jobs, the opportunity to set up their own businesses and apply for loans and so that is one of the things government has done to make it easier for inmates to transition or reintegrate into society. We also have had the program Project Reach, and also the Empower program at Her Majesty's prison. So what these programs are doing is basically giving the inmates the opportunity to learn a variety of skills. They do it even at the civic level. So when they are reintegrated into society, they have enough skills that they can set up their own business or be able to function as a normal individual in society. I'm not sure if we're not doing enough as it relates to the PR or the promo. So, the young Jab Moses there may not be aware, but these are some of the things that we are doing to ensure our inmates can reintegrate smoothly into society. As it relates to the comments that can you just repeat that, because my phone keep ringing and then you might be aware I'm using my phone. So I lost the comment.
That's all right. I think so. The question, the concern that was raised has to do with upward social mobility or lack thereof among young people in Grenada. I mean, the median income of young people in Grenada compared to other OECS counterparts are a bit low. And so I think the question is, how do we address concerns with respect to upward social mobility among young people?
So we continue to train our young people so that they can move at different levels of the economic system there. So what happens? You come into, let's say, one of our programs without any form of academic qualification. And when you leave with a CVQ. That now giving you or empowers you to uplift yourself or to move up, that social strata. Also, we look at those who would be getting, let's say, a degree. If you come into one of our program and you are supported up to a bachelor's level, or even in some cases a master's level, isn't that enough to move you up to that social mobility or that social strata in society? And these are some of the things we have been doing as it relates to the income of our young people and comparing it. Of course, we have a very small economy, and we have to ensure that what we do is sustainable for the long period. And when we compare our income, we also have to look at the cost of living, and so we have to look at it both ways. So in terms of the income earned according to the cost of living, and that comparison being made with other countries.
Mr. Maraz, that was an earful. I want you to respond.
Well, first and foremost, this is how I see it. In regards to Ms. Lewis' statement, comparing the income and the median in terms of the amount earned, I think for Grenada it's a little bit alarming. It's not just the amount of money that we earn. I feel it's a little bit more so the amount that you have to spend to live. It is very, and possibly it could be one of the most expensive islands to live in the Caribbean right now, in terms of just buying food and basic things like gasoline, the price of gasoline, the price of food, the price of clothes. these things, we all have to import it in Grenada. Most of the food that we even have in Grenada, it's imported. Chickens, just name it. And what's happening is that people are being paid, but when the bills come out, when you have to send a kid to school, when you have to do your daily lifestyle, it's hard. It's extremely hard, and I know a lot of people who are struggling to make it their living hand to mouth. And I feel like this whole situation has created a brain drain, right? In the sense that a lot of people have been studying for many years. Through the government. I must say that the government has provided many opportunities for the youths to study in different countries. But what's happening is that a lot of them are coming back to Grenada, and they have been frustrated from the first 2 months, because the problem is that you would have a bachelorate degree or a master's degree, and you'd go to an employer, and the employer is going to tell you that you're overqualified. There's no way that they can budget paying you for the service that you could do for them. So the problem is that a lot of people are fleeing Grenada, looking to America, looking to England and Canada for opportunities in terms of making that money, as compared to staying and building the economy here in Grenada. So yes, the price of living in Grenada is very expensive, and we are not being paid adequately. But these are things that we need to hold a discussion on, and probably, try to see if we can find some kind of middle ground, because people are just not getting enough money to function properly. And I think that's a major problem right
But
now.
but Mr. Maraz, the government will say that they engage in consultations, that they have consultations. I believe they said that they have budgetary consultations coming up, I believe. And so the other side of that argument will be, well, why are you guys not bringing these ideas to the table? And again, we will get to some of the topical issues of the day that are raised by young people, which I'm going to get the minister to respond to. Um, but Moses, what say you? How are you going to essentially ensure that the ideas that you're bringing forward, that again, it falls on fertile airs?
Well, first and foremost, I think it comes with sensitizing, educating. As a youth, I need to educate my friends. You know what I'm saying? Because what's happening is that a lot of youths are, it's not illiterate, but they just don't have the information at hand. They are just functioning. They are just going to work every day, trying to make a dollar, trying to pay a bill. They don't really understand a lot of things that are happening in government, or understand a lot of things that are happening in the economy. Remember, Grenada is a service-based industry. We have more services in terms of the employment, service-based employment, than manufacturing or ICT or any other sector. So what's happening is that with the whole COVID situation, a lot of people who were in the hotel industry are now home, and they have been in those industries for probably more than 15 years, more than 10 years. And that's youths coming out from college or university going straight to the hotels, because they're the ones who are employing people in Grenada. What's happening is now, the fact that we don't have the tourism jobs, people don't know where to go. Remember, back then, our foreparents said, don't do agriculture. I don't want you to work hard in the land. I want you to become a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse. You know what I'm saying? Or a policeman. So right now, agriculture has come on the front burner in terms of everybody's preaching that we need agriculture to be reformed. We need more financial injections into the agriculture sector. We need agro processing. We need factories in Grenada. We need to create local income from what we have, all the resources that we have. But there's only a few in the youths who are doing agriculture. It's very few. I feel like because of the whole COVID situation, I have a whole pile of friends, probably more than 10 friends, that have gotten into agriculture, and they are doing well. But they didn't know that they had access or the opportunity to do well in agriculture. But necessity is the mother of invention. So obviously, we don't have income from tourism.
Especially in this period. Necessity
Yes,
is certainly the mother of invention in this period. But I'm going to get back to Minister Lewis. Minister Lewis, there are some issues that that I would want to address with you. The first one has to do with marijuana decriminalization. Earlier in the program, we spoke about sentencing reform, prison sentencing reform, right? Ensuring that when young people are released from prison, that that the criminal records are expunged. A lot of those criminal records are from marijuana possession. Minister Lewis, what is your position as one of the, again, you are generationally dissimilar to the Prime Minister and many of his most senior colleagues. You're coming in, you are new, you represent that young generation in Grenada. What is your position on decriminalizing marijuana in the country?
For sure, we all know that the criminalization or the legalization of marijuana is a very controversial issue. And what I would say here is not much, but just to say that the conversation needs to begin, and our Prime Minister has already alluded to that. So we must have thorough consultations with key stakeholders, and we need to take it from their listening to the contributions of the key stakeholders, the religious bodies, the non-governmental organizations, our young people, before we can get to that place of making a decision as to where do we go with the decriminalization of marijuana. And that's as much I would say at this point.
But you're not going to offer your personal view on it.
No.
Okay, all right, and that is fair. That is fair. I respect your position not to take a side. But the other issue is there is a sense that, at least in some quarters, that there is discrimination. Persons are discriminated against for passionately expressing views that are contrary to what the government's narrative is. And persons who oppose the government would tend to be labeled and would tend to be victimized, if you will, and excluded from positions or opportunities. How do you respond to that claim? Is that a fair characterization?
I do not believe it's a fair characterization to say that people who express themselves are discriminated or victimized against. We don't do that. We do not condone that, Kellon. What happens, we actually give young people a platform to express themselves. Think about the National Youth Parliament. This is a platform where our young people can make their contributions on bills already passed in the upper and lower house. Based on their contributions, we can look at amendments to those bills. So we encourage young people making their contribution. We can also look at we just recently had budget consultation. This is giving young people the opportunity to express themselves. So we have never, and I am not part of any government that discriminates against young people who are speaking out on issues. And I believe when a young person speaks out on issues that they are facing, as a government, it is our responsibility to listen. And I want to applaud young people who are speaking out. My only qualm about it is that some statements must be substantiated. But I have no problem, and I do not condone any form of discrimination of young people who are speaking out against issues that affects them. This is one of the ways in we as policymakers can understand what they are dealing with and maybe to adjust our strategies on how to deal with it or how to address these concerns. We embrace it, we encourage it, and we do not discriminate against it.
So let's, and the other, someone is making the comment which dovetails into a question that I'm going to ask. It has to do with the youth arm. The person says, Colleen Batty says, the youth arm of these political groups, political parties, are toxic and just as sinister as the older ground guards. How do you respond to that? Essentially, I think what she's trying to say is that there is a conflation of those who are in the partisan politics and those who are in government.
I respect the person's opinion, but what I would say is that We have an open democracy, and we encourage our young people to be independent thinkers. We give them the opportunity to speak on issues, to bring forward the cases, and not necessarily to just intake everything that we as leaders or those at the higher level bring to them. They are given opportunities um, I would say here, to speak against it and to bring forward some solutions.
So let's say that Joel Greenidge and these are the ones, Nevaeh Newman, Cassandra Mitchell, let's say that these folks want to meet with you tomorrow. After seeing your parents on the Bub Report today, would you be willing to meet with them?
I have never met with them. They have never reached out to me. They have never inquired about the youth development initiatives and how they can partner along with us to make it better for our young people or the youth development agenda in Grenada. I have seen some of their comments, some of their postings and so. But none of them has ever reached out to me as Minister for Youth Development. But I can say to you, I have an open door policy. I don't do anything by appointment. Once I'm in office, somebody comes, I allow my secretary to let them in, and this too goes to any young person who wants to meet with me.
Okay, we are almost out of time, folks, but I want to give Mr. Behari a chance to give us some final comments in less than a minute, Mr. Behari, because we're almost out of time, but I want to start with you.
Oh, definitely. Thank you, Kellen. The conversation is very interesting, and I must say that with all of the directions and the angles to which the discussion is taking this discourse, providing adequately for young people goes far beyond the programs that the Ministry of Youth Development is providing. Now, as a government, we can only provide so much, but I do believe it takes a lot, which begins with the willingness on the part of young people to want to go further. And I say it every day. And I mean, people speaks about the Imani program every day. And I say to people, I am a product of the new Imani program. That's where my career began. Right? In 2006, and today I am the active coordinator of youth. But it did not just come like that. It came with a plan. It came with a willingness to actually go higher. And every young person that is given an opportunity, be the Imani program, be the Empower project, the youth-based project. I know sometimes we sit and we see youth development just as the new Imani project. But at the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports Culture and the Arts, we are providing a holistic developmental platform for all sectors of young people. And that's why we are welcoming anyone that believes that we can contribute in all of our programs and projects. As Minister rightfully indicated, I also open door policy. Other members of the management team, Mr. Williams and P.S. Gilbert, all four of us operate an open door policy, and we do not turn back any young person or any stakeholder that want to be part of the developmental process at the Division of Youth, because our role is to provide a holistic package for all young persons within the ages of 18 to 35. Regardless of who you are, we are here to provide the opportunity that you're looking for, and welcome everyone to actually join us on this developmental plateau.
Well, Mr. Moses, that is something I would be following up on to see what that looks like in practice. The notion, again, because, again, the notion is that if you are not, if you're not loyal to the party and loyal to the government, that somehow you are sidelined. Again, that is just the other side of the narrative. Mr. Marast, let's hear you, sir.
For me personally, I have had friends who I wouldn't call name, but I'd had friends who I felt have been victimized because of their political stance. I'm not saying that they are on any side of the spectrum, but I'm just saying that based on what they were dealing with, I have had friends who have been victimized. Just to add to the whole thing with Ms. Lewis and Mr. Behari, I want to thank you for opening your doors to the youths of Grenada in terms of giving us the opportunity for development in many different sectors. But I think having this conversation can open eyes to the youths of Grenada and even the elder sector as well, to the older people in Grenada, so that they know that there are opportunities out there and there are doors we could knock on so that we can get access to these development opportunities, because we really need it. There are certain sectors that I didn't talk on, but for example, the music sector in Grenada and Carnival, has become very youthful. And these sectors as well, too, we need a lot of development in them. And going forward, we see what's happening with the soca music and the branding of Jab Jab and how it all ties to tourism, agriculture, and so many different sectors. So I feel like going forward, it could be a really good initiative to get things off the ground and running.
All right, and Minister Lewis, I know that you're probably priming for later today. I believe all of us would be tuning in with bated breath to the cabinet reshuffle. Also, I did, Ms. Lewis, I did actually invite the Prime Minister to appear on the Bub Report. So it would be nice if you could actually intercede on my behalf. We need to also ask him the hard questions. All right, Minister Lewis, final thoughts.
I must say thanks to you for giving us a platform where we can really explain the different programs and projects that are implemented at the Ministry of Youth Development, because it gives people the opportunity to understand what we do. Many a times we hear a lot of comments, and I'm saying to myself, are we not doing enough PR so that our young people out there can know what opportunities are there for them? Or is it a case where our young people are not paying attention? Whatever the case is, we have to look into it, because we need to improve to ensure that our young people can seek out the opportunities that we are presenting for them. Youth development in Grenada goes way beyond the new Imani program. And Mr. Moses spoke about music and what is happening. Last year, when we launched our Empower program for men, they did a whole course with Edsel Mitchell Ajamo in musical engineering, being able to form their own band and to, read music and all these things. So we have been doing that at the Ministry of Youth Development, but it's a clear case where many young people are not aware. So we have been working on improving our PR department. We have now a PR unit, but also want to encourage our young people to seek out these opportunities, to ask questions. It is also in their interest to know what is happening for them, to know what programs, what plans we have there for them. There are many other programs we did not get to speak on, and we'll be happy for another opportunity to clarify for the issues that have been identified by our young people.
Correct. So this is one of the things that I will be doing. This particular panel, we were really working hard to get it together. But one of the things I will be doing here, and I'll say this publicly, is that we want to have several youth forums leading up to the budget in Grenada, and we are going to be inviting young people across the political spectrum, across the socioeconomic spectrum. Okay, because these questions need to be answered. There are many questions that came in today that I didn't even have a chance to get to because of the technical challenges we were having this morning.
Just give me 1 minute here, Kellon. Now our young people have the platform, they're asking the questions, but what happens after the program today? No one is walking into the ministry to ask or find out what we are doing. They're engaged now on this social media platform for just this time, and after they go about their own merry way without seeking out. And that is the challenge that some of our young people are faced, not coming forward, presenting their ideas, presenting or wanting to be part of the youth development agenda. And that is maybe because of their own political loyalty or persuasions. And
Ms. Lewis, of course, everyone should have a right to their political opinion or be able to freely associate with whatever.
Definitely, and I agree to that.
But I think one of the narratives is that if your position or if you stridently oppose the government, that you are sidelined. I think that is what the narrative that exists out there.
Kellon, if I just come in for a few seconds, Kellon, I just want to, before we close, I mean, the Department of Youth started with a budget of just $15,000 EC dollars,
right?
And that was a few years ago. Today, for the period of 2020, our budget stands at just over $30 million. Now, I'm going to leave a question here, and then I will allow persons to answer. Now, if that's not a government that truly cares about the investment in youth development, moving from $15,000 to over 30 million EC dollars, then what is?
Okay. All right. Well, again, that is some food for thought. And that is something we will take up. I would love for you guys to come back. I'm going to also try to invite Cassandra Mitchell, Joel Greenidge, and others as well. If we can all meet and break bread, shall we say, the biblical term, that would be good. But folks, thank you so much again for agreeing to appear on the Bub Report this morning. As I said in my opening monologue, we are about the business of serious journalism. We are about the business of fact-checking and assessing and critically analyzing claims. And we will continue to do that work. We are in the 16th constituency, as the Honorable Peter David loves to say. And so as persons in the 16th constituency, it is our role to make a contribution in whatever sphere of Grenada's development that is needed. Folks, thank you. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.